This is the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper 4-finger thumb button release. It may very well be the highest value thumb button release on the market right now. Welcome back to Outdoor Tactics. My name is Robert. We're going to talk about this. First and foremost, thank you for clicking on the video, and you probably clicked on this video because you are curious about getting into thumb button releases. This is the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper. I have the 4-finger model here. They also come available in a 3-finger model as well. Kind of just a preference on personal feel there, but I went with the 4-finger for the little bit of added comfort and stability. Imagine the 3-finger would just be like so without my pinky being engaged on the release itself. And from what I've found testing out quite a few different releases on the market around this price point, which is anywhere from $100 to $125 depending on sale prices and which model you go with, this has been the highest performer within that price bracket that I have found. I've used things that are a little bit cheaper at that sub $100 mark, haven't been super excited with their performance, and I've used some stuff in that higher echelon $150 to $250 mark, which have been wonderful releases, but start to get into the realm of diminishing returns after you go more expensive than this. Also, this is not an index release versus thumb button release video. This is simply a video about this specific product. I may make a video in the future about why you might want to choose a thumb button over an index style release. I've shot both. I shot indexes for a long time before I made the switch to thumb buttons. I prefer thumb buttons now, based off of a few factors, but if you're interested in why, and if I have made the video already, I will leave a link to the index versus thumb button release video right above me here. And if I have not made that yet, it will not be in the card, but it is coming soon. So just to get into clarity, for product reviews on this channel, none of them are going to be sponsored without me coming out and officially saying it at the beginning of the video. Spot Hogg does not know that I'm making this video, so this is all just going to be unbiased experiences from me to you, and kind of what I've thought about the release and how they're coming in at a really competitive price point. So let's get into the features on the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper. So first things first, this is the 4-finger model. 1, 2, 3, 4. It uses all your entire palm to hold the release, and the 3-finger model would just not have this peg down here on the bottom. I'll roll in a picture of that so you can get kind of an idea of the differences there. It is thumb button actuated, which means you will wrap your thumb over the release like so. You're probably not super unfamiliar with this. And then squeeze to open the jaws. The jaws close simply by pushing that thumb button back forward, which is a really convenient way of resetting that release. You don't have to reach up with your finger here and actually close it around your D-loop. You can just be holding your bow, bring the release up, and clip it onto your D-loop like so. So that is super convenient. For a bow hunter, I really don't want to be dealing with any extra steps to connecting my release to my bow if I don't have to, and this checks that box very well. It's also adjustable in a couple of different spots. If we come in here right underneath the thumb button itself, you'll see a little hole right there with a set screw. You can take an Allen key, go down to that set screw, and adjust your tension for the release, and that also adjusts your travel. And then there's also a little screw on the side of the thumb button, right here, that allows you to adjust where that button sits at the end of this little arm on the back. That's mostly for sizing it to your hand. I've messed with that a little bit in early setup and then just Loctited that screw, and it's been set it and forget it ever since. So that's been great. You'll notice also that the jaws on the outside of this do not move. It is a completely fixed design up front on the head. The only piece that moves is the actual latch that lets your string go, which makes for a very repetitive release, which is going to then be conducive to better accuracy coming out of your bow. There are some designs where the two jaws come up in the front and open like a pair of pincers, and there's also designs that have a fixed wall and a jaw that opens off of that wall. I prefer the single jaw designs overall in the complete gambit of archery releases, whether it's index or thumb button, simply for that repeatability, instead of having those two jaws that may open at different speeds or at different times on some of those other designs. One of the standout features on the Spot Hogg for me is the comfort. A lot of these handheld releases that I've held in the past, they all have a seam that kind of goes through the center of the release itself, and under heavier draw weight, I pretty much just have my Torex maxed out. I think it's at 68 to 70 pounds right now. I'd have to go put it on a scale to make sure, but one of the things I love about this release is that it doesn't bite into my fingers on the draw. Some of them, that seam is rather pronounced, and it can actually get a little bit sharp on the inside of your fingers, and it's just not ideal for the sake of comfort. If you're wearing a thin glove or something, you might not notice, but I typically like to shoot with my release hand without a glove. I'll just have it in a hand warmer tube to keep it warm, and then I'll bring it out into the cold if I am hunting cold temperatures, and shoot with maximum dexterity. Because with something like this, especially where I have it set pretty light, I definitely don't want to have a glove in the way of me feeling that release going off and then having, an early shot before I was ready for that release to go off. So for that reason, I really enjoy the comfort of this. Typically for hunting situations, I also really enjoy having a thumb button or a trigger instead of a hinge or a back tension release. There are a lot of times in a hunting scenario where a deer may be moving through an area and he's going to hit a gap between trees or whatever have you, and you need to fire as that deer exposes themselves in that gap. So something akin to commanding the shot is a concept that we hear about a lot in the whitetail woods, and being able to command a shot with a thumb button is really great if you're able to sort of control your overall technique without yanking the entire shot down or tensing up that grip hand at the moment of firing. Being able to command your shot is a great skill to have, but it's generally going to produce larger groups downrange than a surprise release. Ask pretty much any competitive archer, they all fire back tension or hinge releases because they want to be surprised when that bow goes off. It's the same thing for firearms as well. However, with a firearm, it's even easier to command a shot because your degree of accuracy with a rifle is going to be much higher than your degree of accuracy with a bow. So, with the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper, I am actually able to kind of use it as a pseudo hinge release. When I'm at full draw with a bow, I will just lay a little bit of tension onto the thumb knob here, wrap my fingers around, and instead of pulling with my thumb, I can just rotate with pressure from my pinky and make that button go off, like so. So it's nice to be able to do that if you're in more of a target setting. However, if you're in a target archery setting and you're starting to take that world really seriously, I would recommend getting into a hinge or a back tension release a little bit further down the road. But if you're just getting into sort of experimenting with different releases on the market, something like the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper, which can kind of do both depending on how you use it, could be a really good tool for you as you learn. So yeah, as I said, the Spot Hogg comes in right at about $100 to $125 depending on the model that you choose and if you can find it on sale. That is an awesome price point for a super reliable and durable release. I have beat this thing up. I've got quite a bit of wear on the outer finish. I have essentially Loctited this thing together as soon as I got it to make sure we weren't going to have any screws backing out, and it's been a beast. I have dropped it out of trees, I have dropped it into creeks. As you can see, there's a lanyard hole here in the back, which is also really useful. My lanyard broke while I was using it, and dropped it again there. I tend to drop things and treat them pretty rough, but just kind of is what it is. But I would recommend shooting with a lanyard on this, so the fact that they included a lanyard hole is super useful. Anyhow, for the price, the durability and the performance I've gotten out of this thing has been fantastic. I have not seen another release in this price point of about $100 do the same thing as Spot Hogg. Granted, I have not tested every single release on the market. That's just not what I'm really about here. But for the money and something in this this price point, this has been perfect for my needs as a whitetail hunter, not so much a target archer. Now, not every product can be perfect, so there are obviously some pros and cons that come along with a release like this. When you compare it to other thumb button releases on the market, this one does not have a couple of things that I really enjoy on other releases that are in a more expensive price range. For example, there is no locking safety. So if I were to have my bow hanging in the tree with me, clip it on, flick the safety, and hang it on my bowstring, you can do that without a safety, but it's a little bit sketchy if you reach up and bump it. Now your release falls to the ground and your hunt's kind of over unless you're carrying a spare in your backpack. So I prefer ones that have a locking safety. This one doesn't, so I just wear it on my wrist with a lanyard pretty much the entire time that I'm in the woods. So that's how I get around that. And then also, as I mentioned, there is adjustable tension, but there is not adjustable travel. So as you go higher in weight, you also go higher in trigger travel, which isn't ideal. Depending on how you like to shoot, maybe you prefer a heavier trigger with a little bit of travel just to make sure that you're being patient with your release. I tend to prefer borderline a hair trigger because I want that little bit of a surprise release if I need it, to where I can just slowly add tension until that trigger breaks, or being able to command that shot without having to punch it so much. I can command that shot really gently with a lighter trigger. So that's just where I've adjusted it. Your results and your mileage may vary depending on how you want to set your trigger tension, but that's just how I like to run my thumb buttons. So that kind of wraps up the summary of the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper, kind of going over the features that it's bringing to the table at this price. Let's head out to the range, shoot a couple of arrows, and we'll talk a little bit more about how it feels in the hand from an actual user's perspective. All right, so I said range on video earlier, but the range is about 40 minutes away from my house, and it's going to be dark by then, so we're going to do it in the yard today. As you can see, you can clip the release straight onto the string like so, and just let it hang while you're hunting if you would like, but you can take a few shots here, about 20 yards. See how she feels. Anchor in, get set up, wrap your thumb around to the button, slow squeeze. Just like so. So generally for hunting, I'm going to be commanding the shot with my thumb, as I did on that shot. But for sometimes if I'm doing a more target-oriented session, I will just, like I said earlier in the video, just lay light pressure on there with my thumb and then roll my pinky backwards to operate it sort of like a hinge. It's not necessarily a hinge release at that point, but it's sort of a pseudo, gaining some of the benefits of it. So we'll go ahead and send another one. And tension through the pinky. Just smashed my arrows. But yeah, once it's set to the weight that I like, which also has pretty short travel, I mean, this thing is just nice, really, really crisp, up there performance-wise with more expensive releases, which is really nice to see. Coming from Spot Hogg. One more here. Good. So yeah, that does it for the range session with the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper. Let's head back inside and finish this up. So that is pretty much going to wrap up the video on the Spot Hogg Whipper Snapper. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got a little bit of information out of this and maybe have decided to pick one up for yourself. There will be product links down in the description. There's also a subscribe button down there as well. If you enjoy the content coming out of the channel, I would really appreciate a subscription. It is free and it helps me out to kind of let me know that you're enjoying the content that's coming out of the channel right now. There's also a comment section, so if you have anything to say about this release, other releases in its class, feel free to drop them down there. I will be responding to pretty much anything you guys have to say. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Get outside, get off your phone as soon as you're done on this video, and go do something you love, and maybe go bow hunting as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This has been Robert with Outdoor Tactics, and we'll see you in the next one.